you started as a kid in a truck, building ponds.
Yep.
And here we are.
33rd year for Aquascape.
Yep,
Started it in college and still going strong. Not involved at all in the day-to-day. The company runs without me. I live in a different state than my business. And, that was this year's Pandemonium theme, Build Your Business. I've built a business that runs without me.
Well, this is a unique opportunity.
Unique is a good word.
Welcome to another episode of the Cost of Doing Business podcast. Today, typically, I interview SynkedUP customers on this podcast, but today we have the privilege of interviewing Greg Wittstock, the CEO and owner of Aquascape. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Absolutely. So we go back a long ways.
Yes.
Probably my first memories of you are Pandemonium 2009.
Okay. Sorry about that.
But Tyson Landscaping sent me to Pandemonium. It was kind of the event that they sent us to. And in 10 seconds, it really changed my life. I mean, it's really why SynkedUP exists today, because it lit up the hunger for
entrepreneurial.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah. So.
Well, and what's fantastic about that is Matt and Steve might have sent you there, but Matt and Steve were your basically two business principals in helping you get this thing going.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is pretty amazing.
That's right.
Comes full circle.
It's been a great partnership. Another thing I remember from the Aquascape Pandemonium events was I couldn't believe that you knew my name after being there like 2 or 3 times.
Well, I just associated you immediately with that creepy lawyer from My Cousin Vinny, and it was easy to remember your name.
He's so wrong about that.
You are setting me up so perfectly.
So anyway, thanks for being on here. And I typically go into, why don't you tell your story for those that don't know? If you know Tyson Landscaping's YouTube, it's all about water features and aquascape, this is the guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Aquascape is the originator, the first professional water feature equipment manufacturer in the world, and still to this day, the only manufacturer that builds water features full time. So when I had the pleasure of going out to Podunkville, Pennsylvania, with Tussie and videotaping your projects, saw the works that you guys kind of done. You were the 2017 Aquascape Artists of the Year, and that was the time before Ben. And you were the head champion there for water features, so you will forever be known as the 2017 Aquascape Artist of the Year. Tussie Landscaping, of course, is the customer.
Yep.
IO, and Aquascape is a great example of entrepreneurial spirit in terms of working with entrepreneurs like Matt and Steve. Obviously, you've taken that to the next level, but my main business at Aquascape right now is to try to help people succeed with their business, which you're doing with SynkedUP. So there's a good synergy here.
Yeah, same vibe.
Yeah.
What out of your whole experience, you started as a kid in a truck, building ponds.
Yep.
And here we are, 33 years.
Yeah, this is 33rd year for Aquascape.
Yep,
Started it in college and still going strong. Not involved at all in the day-to-day. The company runs without me. It's run by most of the management team's been there for over 20 years. And I live in a different state than my business. And, that was this year's Pandemonium theme was Build Your Business. I've built a business that runs without me.
And that's what we preach day in, day out, So in your journey of growing Aquascape, what's the thing that you personally are the most proud of, or the thing that gives you a sense of pride or accomplishment?
Well, the biggest thing was I was able to turn my hobby into a profession.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm still enjoying the hobby of water features. The thing that I'm most proud about is the teammates that have worked to create this with me. So, Ed's been with me 32 years, Brian's been with me 30 years. Most of the management team has been there for over 20 years. And so I take the most amount of pride in the teammates, and then followed just right behind there is all the customers and the relationships that I have all over the years. So my job today, Weston, is to travel the globe, visit my best customers who take me to their coolest customers, and I get to showcase it to the world through social media. But it's an honor and a privilege to be able to do that because some of these relationships go back decades.
Exactly. And so that's worth mentioning is sure, the business runs without you because of the team you built, but you still very much are the face of the Aquascape brand with the social media, all of that.
The number one thing of a CEO of a company, any CEO of a company, is to guide and guard the company culture. And so the culture of Aquascape is really my baby. And so I'm not disengaged at all in my business because I'm not involved in the day-to-day. I'm always working on my business. I'm obsessed by my business, working on the future, which includes creating social media content, spending time with the customers, and then planning the next events, the next influencer events, and all that type of thing. But from a day-to-day operation, I'm not involved. But from a, if I wasn't, I'm always working 6 months to a year out, as we know with the calendars that you've implemented terrifically. I'm super excited about that. So I work on the business, not in the business, but I'm very engaged in the business.
Yeah, and that's, I can see from an outside person looking on, and that's the truth. And what I want to ask you about that, because culture is one of those things that's like, what's the formula? Like, and like, so if you had to start over in a company brand new, let's say you started all over, fresh company, fresh team, what would you do to build that culture?
Well, I think obviously culture is made up of people, so you have to find people that fit your culture. And so, and it was trial and error. I mean, we had many people that didn't fit the culture, but they get vetted out, right? So if I had to start over again today, it would be you're only as good as the people that you associate yourself with. I want to associate myself with like-minded people. Might be completely different and opposite people. If you look at Ed's skill set and Brian's skill sets, but our value system is similar. So our philosophies are aligned and we're equally yoked on things. But the number one thing with the culture is the people that make up that culture. And so you want to get obviously, as you very well know, and everybody's experienced people that aren't our cultural fits. But a strong culture will vet those people out quickly. And then because they can't fit the culture. So to build a new team or to build a new culture, I would start with the right valued teammates that can build it together.
So that really boils down to your recruiting and hiring. Like,
And here's the crazy thing, because I'm not involved in the operations. I don't hire anybody. I haven't hired someone for years that works in the company, but the company the culture is so strong.
Yeah, you've built
the HR manager knows if they'll be a good cultural fit for the most part. Obviously, people come in and go, but we're not having people that last more than 3-4 months that aren't a cultural fit.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you describe how you and your mindset build it or view it, because like I would say from my experience at Tuscan Landscaping, I travel the country visiting contractors all over North America, and to this day I still put Tuscan Landscaping at one of the top organizations out there.
Well, culture, but I said from my journeys, there's never been a stronger team that I have showcased on my blog channel. So the team of Aquascape, the team of Tussie is as strong of a team as exists anywhere that I'm all my visits.
Yeah, and that's a testament to Steve and Matt's leadership.
Yeah, and you were part of that team, and how you replaced yourself was training your cousin to take over, your role. But it's a cultural, it's a strong team-oriented culture, family-oriented business that you worked in.
It is, and what's cool about that is now Ben, my cousin, who I trained to take over my crew, was with you guys, 2 weeks ago out in Oregon?
2 weeks ago, we were out at Garden Answer, which I've talked to many people here that are fans of Garden Answer. And that's probably, I would say, with 8 million followers, I call her the digital Martha Stewart. Now, even you know who Martha Stewart is, right?
Who?
So she's basically, Martha Stewart's in her 80s now. So she's obviously past her prime. Laura from Garden Answers is in her 30s with a young family, and she's producing 6 days a week of content.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I always like to ask people on the podcast a couple questions. One of which is, what is the most difficult challenge you've overcome in business?
Well, that would be a very multifaceted answer. When you've been in business multiple decades, and you're going to experience this, by the way, there's nothing that after 30 years I haven't experienced twice, pretty much. So the difficult thing for first of all, the thing is, I wouldn't go back, and here's a big thing for you, young man. I wouldn't go back, even though nobody wants to go through difficult times and difficult experiences, I wouldn't go back and trade those things for the world, because that's what you learn from. You learn way more from life's valleys than you do mountaintops.
Which is a quote I've heard you say dozens of times.
Of course, it's all, but because it's the truth.
Yeah.
So basically, all I know is bring it on. What's the next big challenge that we're going to have? And even though you don't want to deal with it, when you get through it, the things that you're most proud about are the obstacles that you've overcome. If success came in a bottle, everybody would have a good body, right? And when you ask me what is the most difficult, it's multifaceted, because every other year it's a new thing and a different thing, and of course history has a tendency to repeat itself with people or products or whatever else it is. But thank God for those difficult situations, because that's when you grow. So many difficult situations over decades, but even though nobody wants to deal with the stuff, when you go through that storm, bring it on the next storm, because I'm going to learn from this. And that, so difficult things aren't actually a bad thing. They're actually a good thing, even though no one wants to sign up for, let me sign up for this problem. All business is
solving problems.
Amen.
Yeah. So is there any one particular thing that comes to mind that you feel would be like a lesson for those listening?
Sure. I'll go with one of the multiple of difficult things, and that would be the reality television show.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Yes. So kind of like I felt in 2012 that I had finally arrived. We actually got Nat Geo Wild, to sign up to do a television show. They named it, called The Pawn Stars, where they would, expose us to the masses, the world all over, with decorative water features, which is a niche industry, obviously. And I thought finally we're going to get, the notoriety, the attention that a niche industry like ours, obviously would deserve. So I worked and did it. And it was one of the worst things that ever happened to me, because I had a director that would script everything that I said, so there was no ability to.
And if you know this guy, you can't script him.
Can't script it. So it was a very challenging period, because I had finally achieved my goal, which was to be able to expose. My goal was not necessarily a reality television show. My goal was to get exposure to the masses.
Right.
And I figured this is the best way that I could figure out doing it, with a reality television show. But it was an awful experience, because it was all scripted. So the reality TV show really wasn't reality. And it didn't make it fun. It wasn't natural. We only had one season of it, and then when we didn't get renewed, I thought I had failed. But once again, when you go through those difficult experiences, I was quickly able to pivot like right away on social media. And now it's the most fun thing about my job, is the opportunity to go and showcase unscripted, me going out and visiting great water features with people that I've never met, consumers that I've never met, with customers that I have long-term relationships with. And if you told me today I couldn't do that anymore, I would be severely depressed, because I very much look forward to that. But that only came when I realized I couldn't rely on Hollywood to promote this industry, that I had to figure out another way to do it, and I figured out a way better way. And I don't know if I would have been stumbled into it as quickly as I would have if it wasn't for the failure of the television show.
And it's funny, even in that failure, there is a silver lining, because
100%.
it did lead to the Columbia project.
Yes, okay, so the coolest job that we've done in the history of our company, although we got one in Namibia, Africa, that will probably rival and surpass that. Of all the projects that I've ever seen, a fan of ours from Colombia, South America, ended up hiring us for the biggest single job that we've ever done, a multi-million-dollar job in another, Colombia, South America. And once again, I don't work in the business, so I didn't visit that until 3 years after it was built. That was 2016. No, it was finished in 2016.
It was built in that.
And then we went, you and me together in 2019 when we went. They're very good. When we went down with Heiko Blair on an expedition, that was the first time that I'd ever seen that project, and that to me was the nicest aquascape water feature in the world.
It was awesome.
And it came from a fan of Pawn Stars on TV.
But I think something to really remember from what you're saying about the multifaceted thing is, when we do run into these problems and these challenges, we kind of, there's this mental battle of like, what's wrong with me? I must be missing something is broken. But like you said, like, just get to the point where you realize this is part of life, and what can I learn from it? How do I adapt? How do I overcome?
Yes. So I don't think anybody teaches kids that adversity is a good thing. They try to make their life's path for their kids that, I think we need to embrace adversity. Like, we really, really do, because that's how you grow. It's not just a platitude. It's not just saying something. It really is. Once again, I wouldn't want to go through any of those experiences. I wouldn't say sign me back up. But now that I'm on the other side, I literally feel like whatever the next problem is, bring it on. And that confidence level that comes from knowing that whatever it is, I have the team, people, I have the fortitude to survive it, gives you incredible strength.
And I will also say, what it gave way to your social media stuff, kind of your model, going out and vlogging all your customers and their ponds. Like, I really enjoyed doing a similar thing in SynkedUP, like going out and visiting all of our customers. I do it in a podcast, not so much the vlog style, but still, it is really one of the highlights of what I get to do today.
Well, and it's very important for you, because you have a direct connection then with your customer base. So you hear directly, not through a salesperson or a customer care person, you hear directly what's going on, and then you can come up with ideas, and it could inspire you for the next improvements for your product line.
Feed the vision. Yep. So what would you say is the best advice you've ever been given?
Well,
That you've implemented?
I would have to say the best advice is coming from me, that, you know, all business is just fixing problems. And let's go with the second half of that quote. Do you know the second half of that quote?
All business is fixing problems, and no.
A life without problems is the definition of
yes, I have heard you say that.
hell, right?
Yeah.
It's hell not to have problems. I mean, you want to kill you or me, put us in a toll booth collecting money. Like, you know, doing a mindless job. Yeah. Like, that's hell. That's like hell.
Yeah.
So thank God, you know, for
but
those
that is
problems.
void of fixing problems. The toll booth example, you're not fixing problems in that toll booth.
You
see what I mean? Yeah.
This is why, of course, and everybody hears this thing, people work their whole lives, retire, and die because they don't have a purpose.
So yeah, and the other thing about that is, do you remember? In one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from you. Do you remember this conversation?
Well, which one of the best pieces of advice? I mean, there's so many good ones.
Do you remember Pandemonium 2014?
Okay.
I followed you. It was after a speaking session that you had, and I chased you up. You were going up to the workout room to do a quick, kick back a little bit. And I chased you up there, and I was asking for a job. Do you remember that?
You were asking me for a job, which of course my answer would be no, because I would never hire away somebody.
And you're like, you basically said, what's wrong with you?
I remember this. I remember go back to them. I know what I did.
Yes.
I said, go back to your bosses, Matt and Steve, and tell them, not how you pay me more money, how can I earn the company more money? How can I be more valuable and then subsequently make more money?
Exactly. That's exactly what you told me. And it was probably less than a 2-minute exchange, the whole thing. But that moment, for whatever reason, you know, when you give people advice, sometimes it's like it rolls off and you don't even remember it 10 minutes later.
Sure.
But sometimes something you say, it sticks with you for the rest of your life. And that was one of those moments for me, because I wanted the growth and the success, but I just didn't. I had my head screwed on in the wrong direction on how to get it, right?
Sure.
And so that just gave me that quarter turn that I needed to be like, it was like a light bulb moment for me where I did exactly that. I went back to Steve. That led me into the marketing stuff, the content stuff. And really that energy or that passion that was lit in that kind of like that quarter turn in my perspective is really what led to SynkedUP. You know, it's like solving problems.
So you have me to blame for everything.
Thanks for the problems, Greg. Yeah.
That's cool.
But that was a really, really meaningful, like I've shared that story on stage at the Contractor Summit events, and that was a really meaningful encounter for me. And
for me,
yeah.
And this is what I say, and you're going to start experiencing this with your team that you're building, is the greatest satisfaction in life. You asked me what I'm most proud about, and I said the team. Yeah. The greatest satisfaction in life is helping someone else reach their fullest potential. Now, some people's fullest potential is to start up their own company and go off and get supported by Matt and Steve. Other people would be the head janitor or whatever.
Right.
But your goal is to help them reach their fullest potential.
Whatever that
Everybody's
is.
different.
Yeah.
And then not hold anybody back.
Yeah.
So it always frustrates me, like huge. And the reason I had so much energy around it is when people come to Aquascape and then they leave for other opportunities and they don't come to me and they say, well, Mr. Wittstock, Greg, Pond Guy, whatever, I'm thinking about leaving the company and going and doing something. Well, first of all, they never say that. They say, I've decided to leave and pursue another option. Okay, well, tell me more about this. Well, what about this? What about this? Oh, I never thought of it that way. You mean I can have these opportunities here? So what you should always say, the only way to quit a job, now we're talking about more than people that are watching this that work for one of the SynkedUP companies, is you never, ever, unless there's an ethical reason, which hopefully there isn't, you never, ever go in and tender your resignation. You say, I'm considering taking this job, making twice as much money that I've been offered, that work from home and major my thing, and I'm considering leaving based off of X, Y, and Z, Mr. Weston, Mr. SynkedUP or Mr. Aquascape. What do you think? Hey, high five, I think that's great for you. Or, we have these opportunities over here, or, 3 other people that I know that worked at Aquascape went to work for that company. All I know is that none of them are there anymore. I could maybe connect you with them if you want to talk about them, but you never just tender your resignation because there's nothing to gain with just quitting. What you should say is, I'm considering leaving based off X, Y, and Z factors, and then let the boss say, I agree with you, high five, or hey, there's an alternative perspective here.
Yeah.
99% of people, Weston, throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, I'm out of here in 2 weeks.
Made their decision.
Right.
Yeah.
When they should only say, I'm considering taking another opportunity and I would like to get your advice on what, oh my God, this you really love marketing? Come on over into the marketing side, Weston, which is exactly what Matt and Steve did with you.
Exactly. It's kind of a version in a sense to my story, you know, because like, you know, had I not maybe had that perspective shift that you provided for me, that could have been the outcome where I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go chase something else, hoping it would solve my problem.
So the best piece of advice for business owners is try to create an atmosphere where the team that you built, which is very hard because you're dealing with people, they can come to you and say, because my goal is to help people, whether it's at Aquascape or throughout, reach their fullest potential. But most of the time, people don't do it that way. Most of the time, they throw the baby out with the bathwater. How do I get paid more money versus how can I help you, the company, make more money?
Yeah.
I want you, all business owners want people that will help you make more money.
Yeah.
Because then it's a joy to pay them more money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so, I think if you're like a foreman or an employee listening to this, it's not about like, how do I go from X dollars per hour to Y dollars per hour? It's like, how do I provide more value? How do I make myself more valuable to the company? How do I make myself indispensable?
In all of life.
Yeah, and
it's not about what you can get, it's about what you can give, and then you'll get. If you help other people get what they want, you get what you want.
Amen. I appreciate that. Yeah. In Aquascape, in your journey, you know, you started as a contractor, or you took your hobby and then started doing it for other people. Then you grew the team and a corporation. If you go back to, you know, when this was all starting for you, is there what is one thing that you wish would have gone differently? Something you wish you would have done differently?
So there's many things, especially with relationships, that I wish I would have gone differently. But I don't live in the past. Tomorrow's a new day. The past is the past. But I learned from all of those things. So when you say, what's one thing you could wish differently? I used to do the hiring. Well, I believe everybody that is telling me the truth. I don't have a good, so now I have other people do that, right?
Yeah.
So there's many things that I could have done way better and differently. But of course, when your best friend from high school steals money from you and buys himself a Porsche car, you know, that was not a good hire. Right. You should have listened to your wife that said, I don't trust that guy. Oh no, we play football together. Yeah, not the right guy. But if you've been in business for a decade, this has happened to you. Someone that you trusted has stolen money from you. But I also know that I have other people that I trust more when it comes to judging people and ascertaining what their value systems are. So these are all things that I've learned. How I've learned is that I don't hire, right? When my wife tells me about somebody the first time, I believe her, instead of it took me 10 years to figure that out, where she says, why didn't you, when I told you about those persons, why didn't you listen to me the first time? I'm like, maybe I should have done that. So it's not that I regret these things happening, but I've learned from these things happening, and then I put systems in place. I spend my time, and you know this from me, in a very narrow window that I'm only good at about like this much. And as long as I stay in my lane and I play in that, it's okay. As soon as I deviate and get out of the lane, I screw things up in the company.
So the question I have for you in that, like, this is all good stuff. What do you do to like the owner, the business owner that thinks they have to be the one doing everything?
Well, here's the problem.
Yeah.
Of course, it's your business and you know how you want it done and you're wearing every hat in your business. But here's the question every business owner needs to ask themselves. Is this the job of a CEO? Is this the job of a CEO to be building the ponds? No, to me, my answer was that's a job of a foreman. Is this the job of a CEO to be selling ponds? No, that's a salesman. Is this the job of a CEO to be laying out the company catalog with no, that's a graphic artist. I stopped having a job in the company about 9-10 years after I started my business. From 91 to 95, I was in the field. And from 96 to 2000, I was setting up the mail order business and everything else. But after about 2000, which is over 2 decades now, I've been out of the day-to-day operations of my business. And every single person that does their job can do it better than me in that company because that's all they focus on. And then I could focus on the most important thing, which is the future of the business.
The vision.
So I'm not doing the day-to-day, but I'm looking at the future and where we're going. Obviously guiding and guarding the company culture, but it started, Weston, with is this the job of a CEO? And some people, remember everyone's different reasons, yes, this is the job of a CEO to sell the pond, to sell the jobs, to install the jobs, but that's okay, but you're gonna be limited when it's only your two hands.
Yeah.
When it's somebody else's two hands, but then you got to manage people, you got to put all the things. So the number one question that I think really propelled Aquascape was me saying to myself, is this the job of a CEO? And my answer always was no, 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 no. Now my job is the future and the culture, and that's it.
Which I think a key, again, mindset shift in what you're saying is the idea of letting go of the idea that if I want it done right, I got to do it myself.
Well, here's
getting
the thing.
past that.
But here's the thing. Then you're going to rob yourself of the greatest satisfaction in life, which is an Ed Ballou or a Brian Helfrich or a Colleen Eisler or a Jeff Payton or a Dave Kelly. All of these people with me for decades. Because of course, when Ed first started building ponds, he was not as good as a guy. He was handing me the rocks, but he had a high potential, and so he wanted to go out and build the ponds. And so I knew how I would shut him up as a 24-year-old guy with a 27-year-old guy working for me. I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the next pond lead that comes in, I'm going to give it to Ed. But who is the world's greatest pond salesman? So I was the best pond builder, I was the best pond salesman, and what do you think happened? Ed went out there, and these guys bought a pond. He sold his first job out of the thing, and that was the job that I let him do it. And I will remember this forever, and Ed remembers it too. The first job that my crew built without me in the thing, seeing the job that my guys had built without me, and my first thought, do you remember what my first thought was?
It was terrible?
It was awful. I couldn't believe that the customers paid for this, and then what was behind Ed?
The smiling customers.
The smiling customers, and the clouds parted and a beam of sunlight came down, and they handed me a check for the remaining 50%.
You were like, this is awesome.
So here was my expectations. Here's the customers, and here's where Ed delivered.
And I think
and then eventually, over time, Ed eventually almost could get has way surpassed me. And here's the deal. When Ed surpassed me, what happens? He pulls me up with him.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's letting go of the idea that, you're not the best at every job, like as an owner, as a CEO.
You might be the best in the beginning.
Sure, like you were.
But if your teammates can do a good enough job to do it, eventually the teammates will be better because that's all they focus on. And then that frees you up to focus on other things, which is called working on your business and not in your business. If you want to work in your business, that's okay. You have a job. If you want to work on your business, we talk SynkedUP here. These are good platitudes with things. When you work on your business, you generate cash. When you work in your business, you create equity. And so cash pays the bills, you need cash. But if you want to build something of value, you need to work on it and not in it.
I've never heard it said quite that way before, and that's totally true, because like a way that I have described it to, in my own words, is systems and processes are the keys out of the entrepreneurial prison. Like transitioning from owning a job to owning a business. You can own a job, there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
You're not throwing any shade at it, but then you just gotta make sure that you're optimizing your, cranking cash out of that business, because the day you break a leg, you have no asset.
That's correct. You don't have a business, you have a job. If you want a business, you gotta be able to get other people to execute on your vision and what your standards are, which is why systems, processes, and procedures are so important. It's the 20 products and 20 steps of Aquascape. It's pretty much everything. But when you work in the business, you generate cash. When you work on the business, you create equity.
So being we have literally the owner of Aquascape, the CEO of Aquascape here, for those contractors that are not doing water features, what's it like to get started doing water features?
So I'm at this show, and I talk to everybody about anything when it comes to it. But my big question for most contractors is, why don't make water features the stepchild that is after hardscapes, after nightscapes, after the softscapes? Put it right up there, because water features are the only form of landscaping that sell all the others. It can't stand alone. You need a hardscape to sit and enjoy it. You need the landscaping around it. You need the nightscaping. So it sells all the other stuff. And it's more emotional. When you do a patio, or you do plants for people, or you do nightscaping, it's a good product, so you enjoy it, but it's not a lifestyle. When you create a water feature, water is like, you create a lifestyle. So it's a more rewarding and engaging part of the business is the water features, and it's the only form of business that sells the future work. So if you're a full service design build firm that does hardscapes, softscapes, nightscapes, and it's the stepchild, you might do a water feature now and again, promote the water featers and you'll sell all the other work.
And I've never had a patio customer cry.
And the ponds, it's all the time.
It's crazy. I still don't quite understand why.
It's an emotional connection because you're creating a lifestyle for them. It changes a family's there's nothing that you can do that will make a bigger impact in that space.
No, for sure.
Than a water feature, because water is life. It's the sound, it's the movement. It becomes the focal point, and then all of the other stuff gets there around it, which is of course what the person sells. And right now, because most contractors are good at hardscapes, softscapes, nightscapes, and water features are not a thing. That's why Aquascape has all the training, all the events, all of the stuff.
The academies and.
So I'm going to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Because we were talking just with one of your SynkedUP customers, over at my booth that has not been to Pandemonium.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I said, I bet you if you went to at Weston and you said, what's the best event, of course, outside of the SynkedUP annual event now, which is inspired by Pandemonium, right?
Yes.
I said, I think he would tell you Pandemonium was the best event that he goes to.
It was, yeah. It absolutely was. And I wish you would do it every year, but.
Yeah, well, we got another water feature for Shaq to build.
For real?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the third one. Well, it's actually for Shaq's chef that's been with him for 20 some years and everything else. So we're going to do a evening at Shaq's house, wine and cheese and stuff like that. And then we're going to do the build at the chef's house, which is 2 miles down the road.
Well, speaking of events, will you come to the Contractor Summit next year?
Well, you know me with my calendar.
I know.
What month is it? Is that
September 11th and 12th.
Yeah, that's the last, I vlog from March through, where is it?
Outer Banks, North Carolina.
Oh, that's a nice area. I was just there for a wedding. I vlog March through September.
Okay.
So I already have the dates, so I'll have to look at the dates, but I appreciate you inviting me for that.
We'd love to have
Outer Banks is a cool place too.
It is.
You got
right on the
a
beach.
contractor out there?
Yeah, Jordan Daniker from Evolve Design and Build is going to be the host. We're touring his company.
If I can make it work in my calendar, I will be there, my man. I appreciate the invite.
Appreciate all the inspiration and really I would say the blueprint to entrepreneurial, what the entrepreneurial lifestyle is for myself that I've derived from watching your example.
Well, thank you, because you're one of my satisfactions.
Thank you, Greg.